So I was explaining in the previous videos that this is always better to keep things well organized and more maintainable by keeping your code in separate files. So this is what we do here. We have an extension of the view controller, and this is view controller data. And this is where we're going to be handling all the data, all the API calls in order to get our data for the data download. And we start with this function, which is get city data, and it takes two parameters. So that is a string, and we have a completion handler, which is going to be returning an array of city objects. So the city model that we haven't looked at yet, we're going to look at this file, which is city, and we have multiple properties for that city object, and we're going to be prompted to create this city object with the associated properties right here. So when it's going to be time to create our city objects. So we're going to go back to view controller data. So inside this function, we have this constant that we're going to use in order to, in the case you'd have a city, so we'll see how we're going to use this function in a moment, but in the case you have a city like New York, for example, that comes with a space, we're going to have this function, which is very convenient, string by replacing occurrences of string. We're going to replace any space by no space. So we're going to be able to have a concatenated result and use this one as a URL for the next step. So we're going to be using this URL. So we're going to need a key right here. I'll show you that. And then we're going to call this method, which is data task with URL, on a shared session. So we're going to open a URL session, and it comes with two parameters. So that's going to be the URL that we have just defined right here, and then a completion handler. So that is the part which is important, because it's going to return the data that we're interested in, and the response, and also an error if there's any error. So I'm going to show you before we go to this part, which is where we're going to actually collect the values for each key and then display, so create our city object and then display it on our app. I'm going to show you first this URL, which is going to be our API. So here you're going to be able to sign up. So I'm going to let you do that. And we're going to be interested in this one because we want to actually use a 5-day weather forecast for this application. So we're going to go to the API doc. So this is always where you're going to be starting every time you want to start working with an API. So here you can see that you can do a search by city name. So it gives you an example of how you can do your query, your API call, like so. So we're going to look at this example. So for now it's invalid because there's no API key. So we're just going to come back. I'll show you another example. So we're going to be able to see how is the JSON format anyway. So what you're going to do is first register, and then we'll take it from there.